folder, you don't need to download it again. I don't know if I have it. Again, you can just download it. Remember, it's compressed. You need to uncompress it. So click on it. It's going to ask you to download. Again, it's called Basic Structure 2. You can save it on your computer. When you download it, this folder, and save it, where does it save it? It saves it, of course, into your downloads folder. We can get to my downloads folder by going to the hard drive, downloads. Here it is right here. You can drag it out on your desktop, and you can uncompress it by double clicking on it. It will uncompress, and then we can define site to this. We do the same steps all the time inside of Dreamweaver. In Dreamweaver, once we uncompress this, you don't need the compressed one anymore. You can trash that if you want. That goes away. You just need this folder right here. I can go to Dreamweaver then. We do the same steps every time. Where we go, site, new site. Again, if it comes up with an error message at the very beginning, it's probably can't find the folder from last time. That's probably why it does that. So again, put it wherever you want on your computer. And again, I always go to the site, new site, whenever you start building something. And I'm going to call this response day 2. Second time. How about that? And then, of course, the folder right here in this window is the same folder and way we always choose. We click on the Browse button right here, and we go to the desktop and find our Basic Structure 2 folder right here. We hit Choose, and we hit Save. And if it gives you an error message, basically this error message is saying you've already chose this site previously. Are you sure you want to do it again? And it doesn't matter. I'm going to hit OK. They're just warning you that you've already done it to a Basic Structure 2 last time, and you're doing it again. Just be aware that you're doing it again. Does it really matter? Probably not at this point. So you'll get error messages like that. Just try and understand them. Again, the files should show up in the files window. I don't know why my program is not responding right now. I am not responding. Something is wrong. Something is terribly wrong. Hold on. Nothing is opening. My files window is missing. How about if your windows get all messed up, usually you can reset everything. That usually fixes stuff. But it's not fixing anything I have here. Okay, how about if I quit and start over? Hold on. I'm having Dreamweaver issues here. Is it YouTube? Yeah. I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe. Oh, I quit it and came back, and I'm back in the saddle again. So maybe you need to quit and start over. That might be the best way. Once I did that, it should come up with the files window. I wasn't able to see this files window last time. That's what I was looking for. So inside the files window, we'll have all the HTML from last class. We started with the beginning page. I think we're probably going to start with the one that says Start Responsive. That one right there. So if I double click on that, let's see what the code looks like in there. Okay, yeah, this is the more of the HTML5. Remember last class you were like, oh, Jeff, you're starting with a file that has the ID equals. Remember that? Start with the one that says responsive, start responsive, and we'll start from there. And this is an HTML5 ready one. You'll notice it has the header, the nav, the section. Do you see that one? That's the one I'm going to start with. Again, we're going to start talking about, again, using percentages, using M spaces, and things like that. Let's get to the reading that I posted here. The first code that we're going to look at here is something called a viewport. And the viewport is it goes in the head section of a web page. And what it's used for is telling the browser, or whatever you're using, your phone in this case, or it tells the page to expand to the entire window size. Okay, so I know we've been measuring things in percentages, and most likely it's going to expand to the entire size, but it also tells it not to scale. So the initial scale is 1. What does that mean? It means it fits the entire size of the window. You know how when you look at a web page on your phone, and if it's written in fixed pixels, usually it's really tiny, and you can go in there and zoom in with your fingers, right? You know what I'm saying? Okay, well, this kind of does away with that. And how it does away with that is by taking the content of the page and making it fit to the window. Now, it only works if you're using percentages or M's or something that will flexible do it. And maybe we can do a little test, and I'll show you what I mean, because I don't really have an example of why you would use it. We don't have to use it right away, but it is something that we tend to use in the responsive design to make it fit to the window size. I don't know how to describe it any more than that. So the width part, okay, device width, tells the browser to fit the width of the size of the user's screen. So it takes whatever content you had and puts it to the size of the screen. The initial scale tells the browser not to scale, so you don't need to zoom because it's expanding the content, so you won't, and that's telling it not to zoom. You won't be using the fingers to pinch in and pinch out, because it should wrap all the text. And think of the wrapping. How a responsive site works is that the text will morph and move, right? That's like we were looking at the percentages last time. So that's sort of what this is used for. It tells the content to expand to the size and wrap everything so it'll fit on the screen. That's sort of all I can kind of point out.
We didn't need it last time.
Yeah, we didn't really use it last time. We will be. Do we have it?
Did we have it on that?
No, we were just using percentages. This is what we were doing last time. So we'll come back to that. We'll try one with it and without it. See what happens. The measure the element by percent. This is what we did last time. Remember doing this? So we can practice this again just to get started. Okay, so we'll go through and again, you can do the responsive view once you put your files in percentages. And notice how the boxes will scale. So let's go and change this one, the one that says starting, and put it into percentages. Then we'll go and start working on the font, which we didn't do last time. Remember the font. So let's first start. If we go up, you'll notice I've already put percentages in there for you. I should have left that out and made you put it in yourself, right? So let's just look at it. And notice the other thing I've done is it's using the HTML5 way of using colors. Remember, we were using the hexadecimal values up till now, right? We've been talking about this value, which was the 33CCFF. My favorite color is light sky blue, right? Those hexadecimal values. Well, another way of using the colors is to use this. And so let's start by deleting the background color and put it in together. So delete the one under the header. So look in the code view inside of Dreamweaver. You should have this file open. Go to the code view, and I'm going to show you how you can choose the HSL values. What is the advantage of using the hue, saturation, and lightness? That's what the HL. The advantage of using different is that there was 4 options. Okay, the last option is an opacity setting, so that you can have an object over top of another object and have it blend into the one underneath it, right? Like in Photoshop or in Illustrator or something like that, you have those opacity slider. Well, with this way of measuring, you can actually have a color that blends with another color. is what I'm trying to say. So you can have text blend with what's underneath it or something like that. So let's learn how to choose that. So you'll notice up here I have a header and I deleted the background color. So let's make a background color for the header, but let's use the other color options. Again, in Dreamweaver, we can do this by using the CSS Designer. The CSS Designer. So if you open up the CSS Designer, you'll notice, oh, let me change my window so that it looks different. Remember, you can make it bigger, move it around. And in the CSS Designer, if you click in there, if you click under Style, you'll notice you have Header right here, Header. So again, I'm using the CSS Designer inside of Dreamweaver. I click on Style and I click on Header here. Notice the width of the box is 100%. If I scroll on down to the background color, which is sort of towards the bottom here, right here, background color. Let's see how we can choose colors that are not in hexadecimal value. So if you click on that, you'll notice it gives you mostly the big box that we're used to, and it gives you a hexadecimal value. But here is the HSLA right here. A stands for alpha, which is the opacity, right? Like in Photoshop, when you're doing the opacity in Photoshop, it's actually called an alpha channel. It's the transparent layer. So I'm assuming that's where the A comes from for alpha. If you click on that, it'll give you a box, and notice how the numbers are a little bit different here, right? You got the HSLA, and then you have the 0 and percent, 0, 0, 0, and then you have a 1 here. Okay, that's referring to the opacity. So if we choose a color, and we'll try the opacity and see how that works today, you'll notice how it's choosing the colors down here. I'm assuming the HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. Saturation is the amount of color, right? So how pure is the color? Hue is this value right here is the hue. See, if I go like this and not move the circle, notice how only the first number changes. See how only the first number changes? See how I'm doing that? This number right here. Hue. Adjusting the hue. Lightness as well as saturation, because if you add white, it's going to be a less saturated color, right? You're adding light to something. And okay, over here is the opacity. Notice how the number changes from 1 down to 0. It'll be totally transparent there. I got a color with nothing in it. And I got a total saturation color. So you might want to start using this. For me, it's harder because I have to calculate these numbers. At least Dreamweaver's calculating numbers. The hexadecimal values, I can remember those pretty easily, right? 33CCFF, hey, light sky blue. But here, this is a little bit more complicated. But do you see how to do it? Okay, let's close the window. And you'll notice the actual code then goes in here. You can type in what you want. Of course, if you wanted it to be 50%, you can put a 0.5 in there, right? And it'll be 50% opacity or opaque, whatever. So that's how I chose the colors that you see here. Okay, that you see there. Let's preview. Let's save and preview. Notice how the boxes. Oh, look, the West Valley site goes crazy sometimes. Did you see that? Where the thing keeps going back and forth. Okay, again, we did this last time. I think you can figure out how to do the percentages, right? Let's move on to the font, because that's really what I want to talk about today, is how to measure the text. Okay. Then we'll talk about breakpoints and media queries. So if the web page gets small like this, what do we do with this box? We can hide it and make this one bigger. We can move it and make this one bigger. That's most likely what I would do. Okay? Either move it down underneath the other one or hide it, this one right here. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to resize the text that you see here. We're going to use M's. We'll resize our text here using M's. We'll probably use M's for the size of these text in here. And then we're going to do something called a media query, which tests to see how big the window size is. And if the window size is a certain size, we will hide this box and then make this box the full size. That's what we're going to do right now. Okay. So how do we do that? Let's read the text in the handout. I'm sure you could figure out the percentages. We did that last time. Okay, here we go. I'm starting step 3 here, font size. Okay, the font size in responsive design, you can use both M's as well as percentages. Oh, we haven't put the body to 100% font. Remember that? We haven't done that yet. Remember the first step before you start doing things like that, as far as measuring things in M, is to set the body to 100%. So right now we have header, we have nav, we have section, we have A side, we have footer, but we have no body in there. So the first step is to set the body. So I'm going to go to Style. I'm going to hit the plus right here. See the plus right here? And we're going to go body. So I'm going to put body in as our first one. And you can go down to where it says font size, and we're going to use 100%. Okay, again, just like in the handout, that reading that I posted on there, the starting point for you is to start with the body and make the font size at 100%. Why do we do that? Again, that tells the browser that the default font size, okay, which is 16 pixels. At least that's the way I understand it. Okay. When you're done there, let's look at the code. Again, you can see font size. If you want to give your body a color, so the background has a color, you can do that too. Maybe practice that. That's underneath the background color. I might give it a little color.
Jeff, is body the same as you used container in the last one?
Which one? I'm sorry.
Is body the same as container? Is it
Yeah, well, somewhat. You can use the same technique that we used last class and give the container a font size of 100%, and so that whenever you put anything inside that, it'll then default to that. Yes. So if you're thinking about what we did last class, remember last class we did the original thing had a box of a container, and then we had all our boxes inside that container. Well, what you would do then is, give that container font size of 100%, so that then all the ones that are inside there will start measuring that. That's the reason why it's called cascading style sheets, is because things can cascade, right? It goes from one option to the next option to the next one, especially with the M space. The M space is a relative measurement. I don't know how to, there's a whole chapter in this one CSS book I bought about 10 years ago. And they spent a whole chapter just trying to explain the M space. And the most important thing, and that's what we're going to use right now, is the measuring text in M's. Is the way to understand it is it's a percentage. It's kind of like a percentage, but it's more of a ratio. A ratio. I don't know how a ratio is. Like TV 16:9 ratio. When you make it bigger and smaller, and the window size stays the same dimensions, you know. It just gets bigger or smaller. And that's, think of the M like that. So yeah, doing the body font size to 100% is the first step. Okay, let's measure the fonts then. So right now, in the header, the font is at H1, I believe. Let's go down there. See, H1, H1, H1. See, header H1. So what we can do now is change the H1 inside the header so that the font that we're adjusting is only affecting the H1 that's in the header. To do that, again, we're going to use our CSS. And let's get back to the reading real quick, and then we'll do it. In this case, the body size of the text, font size of 100%. We just did that. This will make the font size 1M as 16 pixels. So if you want your font in the header to be 16 pixels, you set the dimension or the measurement for the font to 1M. You can use that as a basis. We can use this base to set the rest of the layout. If you want the font size to be 26 pixels font size for the heading, then do some math. 26 pixels divided by 16 will equal 1.625. We use this as the font size if you want 26 pixels for your header. So let's try it. Inside Dreamweaver, again, we're changing the H1 that's inside the header. So we're going to use two options. You can actually click in there, and when you go to the plus button here, it's actually, you hit the plus button here, it should put it in body header 1. I don't need to go all the way to body. I'm going to remove that and just use header H1. So again, if you want to start when you hit the plus here, to get your starting point, put your cursor inside of Dreamweaver where you want it. When you hit the plus, it should automatically put it in there, and you can remove body if you don't want it to be that specific. So I think that's the reason why you don't need so many. Header H1 is what we want. So once we go to the header H1, we can click on it. Right? Click off and then on. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt having to do that. Click off and then on. Again, the header H1. Click off and on after you do it. Again, we're going to go to font. So we want to change the size. Okay. So we can change text. We're going down to the text area. You can change your color if you want. Again, notice how since I clicked this on, you will notice it's changing here. In addition, you can change your font, and we learned how to put Google fonts in. I'm just going to put a different font in there. But the most important is the size down here. If you click on the size, we're going to start using what we call M's right here. M's. I know there's other ones in there. There's the REM. REM, isn't that a band? Yeah. Relative M's, I believe, is what R stands for. It was an early way of measuring. I think we could just use plain M's right here. And again, if you want it to be 16 pixel header, you just put 1 in there. So let's try 1. Let's see what it looks like. So let's save our file. Let's go back. You'll see the size right there. That should be 16 pixels now. If we preview it inside of Firefox or whatever, you'll see this should be 16 pixels right here. Okay.
The font size doesn't change when we change the...
No, the M is more useful for when it's adjusting for the phone, right? Because this is a fixed size window here. It's not going to change the size of the font. We're not doing.
Is it based on the actual?
Okay, it's 16 pixels. It's set by the browser, right? It's a browser set. Okay, let's change the size. Instead of 1M, what did we say? I think there was a math I had for 26 pixels. 1.625. So let's try. So if we want our font to be 26 pixels, we go 1.265. I think that's what I said. Let's change it there and let's see. It's larger.
65 instead of 265.
Oh, what was it? I'm sorry.
1.625.
625. Thank you. My dyslexic comes in. There we go. That looks better. That looks more like 26 pixels, right? So if we save and then preview, it'll wrap. And later on, we're going to learn how to get the text. Because one of the main problems with doing a responsive site is the way that the text wraps. Right? You want to be able to force the browser to kind of maybe have the text on 2 lines instead of 3 lines because of the way it wraps, and we'll use some JavaScript to do that. But for right now, it should be 26 pixels now. Okay, it's not changing size, it's set to the size of the browser. Again though, it's going to be relative for your phone. Okay. And the reason why we're doing this is because if you make something, let's say you use pixels instead of M's, it's going to be 16 pixels on your phone as well as the same on here. It's going to be too big on the phone. That's what the whole purpose of this is. It'll adjust itself to the phone size. Okay, let's do another one. Let's get back to the reading. We can do the same. We can use the same base to set the rest of the layout. If you want 26 font size for the heading, then do some math. Oh, we already did that. We can do the same size for the box divs. Oh, and you can use M's instead of percentages for the dims. But before we do that, let's just do one more. Let's do the subhead, the navigation text in here. Let's do the navigation text in there, so practice before we get to using M's for the box size. So again, if you put your cursor in there, it'll automatically know where you want it, and then hit the plus button here. And again, it's using H2 in there. It's nav though, H2. I'm going to get rid of body. I don't need it that specific. And let's practice another one. Again, I'm using font. I'm changing the font. So this is H2 in here, this one. Again, I'm using font. If I can find my font. Here it is, text. So we can change our text color. Maybe try the opacity if you want. Try that. See how if the text will blend. I guess we probably won't see it because you got one color blending into another one. It's probably not going to notice it. But you might want to try the opacity slider that is there. You can change your font if you want. Where are we at? Font size. If you want it to be twice as big or 2 times 16 and 16 is what? 32? So if you want 32 pixels, use 2 M's. And it should be a relative size like that. You can also go half size. So if you want 12-point text, right? 12 point or 12 pixel, I'm sorry, 12 pixel. You need to go down. You can use a decimal point. Okay, right? What's 12 divided by 16? I don't know. Is there a calculator in here? Phone that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of calculators.
What's that?
There's a bunch of calculators, big desktops. Computer.
Oh, yeah. If I could find out where it was at. I don't even have a calculator, do I? Oh, here we go. What did I say? 12 divided by 16 equals 0.75. Simple enough. So if you want your font to be 12 pixels, you put in 0.75 M's, and this will be 12 pixel font. Okay?
So, I'm having trouble with this pixel thing because I don't write fonts in pixels, so that doesn't make sense to me.
So,
How do you know that you want it in 12 pixels? I mean, are there standards for?
Yeah. So in the early days of web design, early days, we're designing things for the computer screen. So one of the downfalls of measuring fonts is that if you want it to look the same on Internet Explorer, as well as Firefox, as well as Chrome, the best way of measuring the font is using pixels, because what that is doing is taking the font and matching it to the pixels in the computer screen, right? Because you have pixels in your computer screen. So the advantage of using the pixel is that the font would match the size of the pixels in the monitor, so that if somebody was looking at it in Internet Explorer, it would be 16 pixels or 12 pixels in this case. Somebody's looking at it in Safari, 12 pixels. Somebody's looking at it in Internet Explorer, 12 pixels. So for forever we've been measuring fonts in pixels. The downfall and the reason why is that once you go to the phone, though, it's a different screen size. It's a tinier screen size. So if you're measuring in pixels, what happens is the font then will start changing the size. It just would be too small maybe, or just not right. So we started measuring things in M's so that it's a ratio of the size matching it to the pixels in the browser and not on the screen size. I guess that's the way I would explain it. Instead of matching it to the computer monitor pixels, it should be browser.
Is there a correlation between the points and the pixels though?
No, not that I know of. I know we're used to Microsoft Word and measuring everything in points, but since we're measuring things on the computer screen, we measure in pixels mostly. Like the window size, right? Remember the fixed width? Pixels. Okay, let's move on to the div boxes. Oh, I'm going to put this back up to, let's make this a little bigger. I'm going to go to 1M, which would then make this at, again, 16 pixels right here. Not only can we use the M space for the font, but we can also use the M space for the div tags. Again, for the main page that I want to size of 96 pixels, we can divide by 16 the base number and get this. This is the maximum size of 16M for the body tag. This sets the main box. All other divs can be measured from this. For example, if you want a box size set to I should wrote to 100%.
So you're using M's instead of the 100% or the percentage?
Yeah, let's try it. Let's just try it. So instead of right now, again, we have this at 100%. Not 100%. This is, I believe, 60 and 40. I think right now. I think it's 60-40.
Yeah, it is 60.
Yeah. So let's try using M's for the size there. So let's change, instead of using 60, so what did it say in the handout here? For the main page, I want the size of the box to be 960 pixels. We can divide by 16 the base number. So 960 pixels divided by 16 equals 60. This is the set max size for the 60 M's for the body tag. This sets the main box. All other divs can be measured from this. For example, if you want a box full size, you can still use 100%, which, of course, the header is 100%, right? The navigation I have at 100%. But for this section right now, I have 60%. If we can put in 60 EM in there instead of percent, let's see if it gives you the same look. The same look. It goes all the way across now. Oh, and it's fixed too. I don't know why I was doing that. I don't know. But it's a fixed size. I don't know why I was doing it. I don't know why I wrote that. I can't remember why. Oh, that's sort of why I was setting it to go back to a fixed size.
A fixed size that can be adjustable on the phone.
Yeah, I think the purpose of that was when you do a ratio to the screen. I'm not sure why I was doing that.
But if you brought it up in a phone, it would have it appropriate, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still thinking why I did this. Let me go down. Let me try a different size. That's half that. Okay, so it brings this one back around. This one's moving. And the text is not wrapping. So let's go and let's see what it looks like if we put the viewport in. Oh, we need a chevron at the end there. So that would set it to the, no, but see, it's still cut off. I don't know why I was using divs for the boxes. I can't remember. Tested it. When I ran out of media query. Shit, I thought I had typed that in there. I left that out. Okay, let me pause this for a moment. Okay. Just like the cooking show, open up one that I've already put some text in. So in the body tag, we give it a font that tells the font, whatever font we want. Then we have a color for the background. Then this one is a margin set to 40 pixels, but also auto. What is this doing is it's centering it. Now it doesn't look centered right now, but it is if we preview it. Okay, so there's a little bit centered. Okay, so the auto that you see puts it in the center. Okay, and the 40 pixels is down from the top. That way it's not at there. So looking at that line right there, oops, where was that line? Center, down. Padding is 16 pixels, just brings it into the edge. Padding of 0, but 16 pixels is the second option. It seems to be down from the top. Now the max width is of course 60M that I was trying to read it, and if I do the 960 divided by 16 gives me the 60M, and then the font size default size. Okay, so this was a measurement to measure the other boxes. I think that's the reason why it's there. Okay, so you're setting a base of size, but this one is scrolling, the other one wasn't, right? Remember the first one I was trying? That's probably because I measured the boxes still in a percentage. See, still in a percentage here, that's right. Oh, the font is, although this is the width of so let's go down. The H1 is the font, this is the font size. I don't know why I have a width and an M here. But we already discussed that. Why do I want my text to be 26 pixels? We did the math and we got the 1.265. For the H2, also, I don't know why I have 100% here. I guess it's the size of the box. I don't think, let's look at the code down below here. Yeah, see, I didn't use header and footer. This is just the size of the font. That's why. So what makes this different than the other one is that I'm using the text H1 and H2 as the box itself. There's no real box there. It's just text. See right here? It's just text. There's no box for it. That's why it's like that. Then let's look at the other one. The section is 100% width. That's this line right here. This one right here. Flowers are fun. That's that one right there. It goes all the way across, 100%. Let's look at the next one, is the article. The article, I'm still using a percent, which is 68.75%. And how did I get there? I wanted the box to be a ratio, and then there's space between it. That's the reason why. And then this one is floated right. I'm thinking out loud here. This is floated right. And this is floated left. Okay, so the layout that you're looking at, I'm still using percentages for the size of the box. This is setting the max width of 60 ems, and we could use that to adjust the rest of them. Let's look at another one as I went along. Here we go. That looks about the same, doesn't it? Let's look at number 4. Oh, that's where I have a media query. Okay. So let's look at let's go back to number 2 for a moment. So if we look at number 2 and we preview it, again, we have this set to a specific size. We have this set to a specific size. This is 100%. This is about 60% of the page, and this is about 20% of the page. Okay, as I scale it inside the browser window, you'll notice that they wrap. Okay, even the top text right here is wrapping because the size of the box is changing. Okay, so what are some of the things we would want to do? Okay, so right now on a computer screen, this looks normal. You have, you know, a article like a blog, right? In a blog, you usually have some kind of article, and then you have another article, then you have some text that's at the top, and then you might have some navigational bar, right? But if you want to look at it in a phone, most likely it's going to look smaller, right? Okay, so what do you want to do with this box? You can either hide it and then expand this one out so it takes up all the space, or you can move this down where you would do left align where it would go underneath, right? So you can use what's called a media query to adjust the boxes. Why we measured the boxes in these areas is so that we could move them around. Okay. What this was, okay, and let's go back to this for a moment. This 60M, this sets the size of the box, okay, the max width. And why is that? Well, that's the maximum size on the computer screen. So that now I understand. We wanted the main box to be 96 pixels, 960 pixels. So when I preview this, watch it again. When I preview this again, notice how when I get too big, from here to here is the measurement, is the 960 pixels. That's why it moves. See how it moves together? Okay, so there's a set width from here to here. That's what this number is doing, max width. Because think about it, if you start measuring a web page in percentages and somebody has a 26-inch monitor or 27-inch, anybody have one of those giant 27-inch monitors, right? Maybe, I don't know. The only person I know has a 27-inch monitor is Jean. She's got one of those big ones. But think about it. If the page, you have a giant monitor, do you want your web page to spread all the way out? All the text to go all the way out? No, you don't. So that's what this is. Now it's coming back to me. This tells it, hey, don't make it any bigger than that. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's continue. Let's look at this one for a moment. So again, as I was going through and doing this, one of the things you can run into is something called a media query. Okay, so there's this thing called media. And where did this come from? I think last class I introduced it to you by saying it came from the days when they developed ways of adjusting the screen, mostly for people that couldn't see the screen, right? For accessibility, as well as for printing. Okay, it comes from Braille. Braille was one of the media queries and things like that. So what does this say in the code here? Okay, this media query says a minimum width of 650, okay, which will actually bring back the actual page. So let's preview this for a moment and see what it does. If I make it small, notice how this box over here will go away. And notice how this text will take up the full screen. Okay, so that's the way it would look like on your cell phone. And how is this done? Well, this is done by using these media query here, where you have a minimum width of 650. Okay, so you had the max width up here. Hey, this was the max width. You have a minimum width of 650. Take the A side, float right, width of 26% padding there. So what this is saying is if the size of the window is less than 650, we're not going to show it. We're gonna hide it, and we're gonna make the width of the article smaller. Okay, smaller. Okay, so up here you see the article is 90%. Do you see it right there? Okay, so if the by default we're starting from the phone first method. Okay, so this is more of a phone first method. So let's read it again. The code that you see here up here is for the cell phone first. Okay, this is all for the cell phone first. And so what happens is what you use is the media query to adjust the window as the screen gets bigger. This is used to adjust the window as the screen gets bigger. So what happens when the screen gets bigger? Okay, we're going to float the right side and the width to 26% with a padding and display as block. That tells it to be a chunk of data that you can move around, right? Block. I think if you turn off the block, you won't see it. And then it tells the article to be less. It shrinks it down. So let's look at it again one more time, and then we'll write one ourselves. We'll do one ourselves in Dreamweaver. The code is set for this first, okay? So what the media query is doing in the code that you're looking at here is as the screen is expanded or it's on a bigger screen, it's then going to take the other CSS that is inside there and use that to adjust the window. Here again, watch. As I move the window bigger, notice how this is still a percentage. It's still giving me, this is 90%. 90%. I'm moving 90%, 90%, 90%, 90%. Once it reaches the 650, boom. What takes place? Well, what takes place is this. Takes the article, which is that little chunk of text, floats it to the right of the page, makes it 26%. Okay, adds a little padding and block, tells it to be there, tell it to be a chunk of data. Then it takes the article and shrinks it down to 20%. Again, let's look at it one more time. The code that you're looking at starts out like this. Okay, so it's made to be mobile first. As the window gets bigger, more towards a computer or maybe even an iPad, you'll notice once it gets to the 650 width, boom, what does it do? Makes this 60%, makes this 20%. Then it keeps it like that. Does that make sense at all?
Why would you want something to not exist at all on the phone?
Maybe you have too much content, right? I think last class we talked about how there's not a lot of real estate on here. So if you have a lot of stuff on your web page and you want to hide it, you can just hide it. You can also move it, I believe, down below. We could try that too. So let's try that. So let's go back and let's just try coding some of this right here, this media query right here. Okay. We can go back to how about we start with number 3? That seems like a good one. I'm going to start with number 3. Now, inside of Dreamweaver, they have this media query box right here. Do you see it? You can click the plus button there to add a media query. Notice it puts the code down here, right here. Notice it's using the word screen. Okay, screen. This is where the media queries came from. Like I said, the Braille, handheld, print, projection for when you're projecting, and TV. So the media queries was built into the CSS HTML. These have been around for a while, but it's only been recently that we have started to use them for the responsive design. I'm going to leave it screen, and I'm going to hit the plus button. Oh, no, I don't want to add a new one. I'm sorry. Let's say in landscape portrait. I didn't want that. This is later on. What we wanted is I wanted max, or yeah, it was not. It was max width. Wasn't it max width?
Yeah,
Max
it's the first one.
max
Second
min. That's it. That we wanted max width, and I think I wrote down 650. Right? That was it. So again, this box should be max width 650. When you hit OK, it'll put it down here. See it here? Notice how it shows up here. So now what Dreamweaver is asking you to do is make the new code for that. Okay, so you can use the Dreamweaver tools to do that. Or you can just type it by hand if you want. So again, we're going to make new CSS. New CSS. So again, if I click here, what were we using? A side, right? A side. A side. Notice how it shows up here. It shows up here. And what did I do with the A side? I used a float right. Float right. And what else did I do with that? I floated right. And we changed the size of the box to width of 20%. Right? And you need to say display block. It won't show up unless you say block here. So again, notice in the CSS Designer, you notice I don't see my other CSSs here. The reason why you don't see remember the body and the other ones here is because you're making new CSS for just that area. What did I say? Float right, 20%. And did I give it any? Oh, I gave it like a font. Let's change the font size. Let's change the font itself. And then the font size, we want it to be what? 16 pixels, which would be 1M, right? How about that? 1M. So let's make some adjustments. The other adjustment we need to do too was the percentage of the section, right? Remember the section, or not section, was it section? No, it was article, 60%. Oh, and then there's some margins here and padding. That just gives it space around the outside. The reason why there's padding and margins is so that the box itself has room inside it. That's what these are doing. You can pretty much leave that and it'll still work. It's just giving it size. So again, if you want to go back, we need to do the article. So I'm going to click here where it says max width 650. I'm going to hit the plus button here and we're doing ARTICLE article, and we're going to make the article down to 60%, right? That's the size of it. Oh, here it is. Width percent 60. There we go. 60%. So let's try and save that. That was number 3, and see what it looks like now. Again, you need to start off. Oh, it's still there.
You need to take it needs to hide it in the regular one.
Yeah. Oh, it's min width, not max width. That was my mistake. not max width. Put in word min. Minimum width. That was the mistake. Not max width, minimum. You could just retype min right there. Now let's preview it. Let's preview it. And refresh your browser. Oh, still there.
Jeff, in the original, you had a side display equals none.
Okay.
The media query, so it wouldn't show it unless it reached that minimum width.
Yeah, okay. I'm probably doing that wrong. Okay, where?
In the main code.
Oh, up here?
You had the aside display as none.
Oh. DISPLAY colon
None.
There we go.
Semicolon.
Semicolon, thank you. So none of this was even here then, right? There we go. Okay, A side display none. Let's see it now. Oh, there we go. Oh, but this should be bigger when it's smaller. So you might need to change the article to 90% here. So again, change the article to 90% here. Float left is fine. A side display none. Then with the media query, let's try again. That looks better. So again, it should start off like this. As the screen gets bigger, 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 this shows up. Let's see, instead of display none, we do float left. Float left. That should put it underneath it. No? Oh, hit refresh. No? Let me try and change that. So A side. Notice how as I'm clicking here, it's changing it here over here. Oh, let's give it a width of 90%. Display as a block. And you might have to put a clear on there too. Let me give it a color so I can see it. Green. Okay, there it is. So again, this, instead of hiding it like the first one, remember it said display none? I said float left, and so it's underneath it now instead of being hidden. So when it gets bigger, it'll float to the right. Here, watch. Okay, as it gets bigger, it comes over here now. Do you see that? So you can stack your content as the screen. So let's say on a cell phone, right? You want your content to be kind of in a big long line like this, right? Nice line, nice line, nice line. Okay, but on the computer monitor, you want it to be next to it, over here. How did I do that? Again, let's look at the code. So inside the media query is for when it gets big. This is for when it gets big, right? For when it gets big. This is when it's small in the cell phone. So in the cell phone, I want the A side to be left and filling up most of the screen, and display of block, and I just put a color in there so we could see it. And let's see, for the font at the top, I have that being 26 pixels. That's fine. That's fine. With this padding. Does any of that make any sense? Did anybody get it to work? Okay. Let's do a photo that scales also next. Let me pause. I'll come. Steal a photo from the internet and put it in that folder, and we'll try a photo. Any picture, yeah. Just steal a picture. It doesn't really matter what picture you want. What do we want? We've been doing flowers, right? And it's springtime. You got your flowers out there. Make not too big a picture. Something small, tiny, 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 tiny. It's a small one. Small picture, small picture. Oh, here's some small pictures. Oh, Valentine's Day is over, isn't it? There we go. So I'm going to steal a picture. Remember, right-click on it, save it, and put it in your folder. I'm using, again, on my desktop, I have basic structure too, right? And this is my photo. So go find a picture and save it in your folder, and then we're going to program it. Make sure you know what the name is so you can program it. What's that? I'm sorry.
Did you say it as a JPEG or a PNG or just not?
Yeah, I didn't change the format. So whatever it was when I saved it here from here, this was a JPEG. So I just saved it as a JPEG and I called it photo. So any format doesn't matter. They'll all scale or change size. So if we go back to our code, again, above the media query here is all cell phone, right? So you can put your picture in a div if you want. I'm going to put it, you can use the design view if you want. You can use the design view. Actually, it's probably harder to do design view. Let's use the regular view. I'm going to put the photo code view. I'm going to put the photo after the A side here. So you're going to want to put the photo in a div tag. Now, do we want to have a div tag? You could just make a div tag. You can either type it by hand, div, and then you can do an ID or a class. Class equals the picture, all one word. Don't use two words. And then use a closing div. So basically what I did was just make a box. So when you do coding like this, I'm going to put a box in there. The reason why I'm putting the picture in the box is I can then take this box and do the same media query. I can put it float right, and things like that. So the class is just like the IDs that we were doing last class. Remember the IDs? So it's the same thing. It's just a box. The reason why you use a class is so you can use it over and over again. So the class and the ID are the exact same thing. We're going to take the photo. We're going to put it in a box. We're going to put the photo inside the box. Then I can shift the box and do whatever I want with the box.
How come when you try to do it through the, if you try to insert this div structure, it doesn't let you put a class in there?
Where? I'm sorry.
If you go into insert in the top, div, no, yeah, either way. Can you type in there?
Yeah, you can just type in the picture.
I just couldn't. It wouldn't let me type it. Oh yeah, it does.
You can either do it that way or this way. You can insert the picture if you want. Again, by put your cursor in between there, you can go and use your designer stuff. You can do your code, go insert, image, insert image to put our picture in, insert image, and then choose your photo and put it in there. Okay. You can make the photo whatever height and width you want it to be. So if you look at your design view, you'll see you have a picture.
When you define the div, I thought you just type under the inside the body. Inside the body. Did you define it?
I just typed it in here, underneath the, above the body, yes.
You don't need to define the like the CSS.
Hmm?
You don't need to define.
I haven't defined a CSS yet for this. No, I haven't done any CSS yet. So let's just do a quick, you can change the size if you want. So I haven't done any CSS for it yet. I just changed the size of the box. Now, the box is going to be the same size as the picture. Notice how it jumped around when I made it smaller. So we haven't done anything with it yet. Okay, so let's float it. Here we go. So just put a picture in. To put the code in for this, I'm going to click on the style up here. This is the normal cell phone one. So in the normal cell phone one, we want the picture to be left, float left. So in the normal cell phone one, I go to where it says style. I go down here to the plus button. Notice it should put the, notice how, because I had it selected. Notice how it put that in there. See how it put it in there? Why did it put it in there when I hit the plus here? Because I had the picture selected. So select your picture, go to your CSS Designer, click, don't do the media query yet, we're not doing this one yet, we're just doing normal. This is going to be on the cell phone. So on the cell phone for this, you can change the size of your picture. I'm going to make it tiny. How about we go down to where the size of the image is and we make it small. We can do it, what do I want to change the size of the picture? Minimum width, minimum height, height and width. Pixels, let's do 50. Is this picture square? I can't remember if it was square or not. Let me just see what that looks like. Okay, it's tiny. That's fine. My cell phone size. Hold on, let me do a bigger one. How about that? 100. Okay, so we have a little picture. So this is on the cell phone one, and make sure you do float left. Float left. So if I preview this, and I look at it, oops, not this one. Hold on. Let me find the right window. Try this again. Preview it. And it's on a small screen. It should be stacked. Stacked. Small screen. My picture is there. I gave it a width and a height. Made it tiny. Width and height. Made it tiny. And I floated left on the cell phone.
Can you use the with the higher percentage?
Yeah, you can do a percentage and it will scale. I have to think about that though. I didn't bring that sample today. Okay, when it gets bigger, it's going to go over here. Okay? But if I want it underneath here, say I want it underneath here, I'm going to then float right for the media query. So, and make the picture bigger. So do the same thing. Do the same thing. So for the picture on the computer screen, I click here, click on the global minimum width here, hit the plus button. It's the same media query here, same one. This time I'm going to make the picture bigger. and I'm gonna float it right, and then yeah, I might need to clear the right so it's underneath. So float right and then clear right so it's underneath this one over here. So it's underneath this one over here. So again, think of the concepts. When the window gets bigger, I'm gonna make the picture computer screen bigger picture. Then I'm going to use the float right, and I cleared the right so it's underneath this one. I think that'll make it look a little better, and of course you can give it some margins and stuff. So let's see what that looks like. So if you preview it on a small screen, so this is on cell phone, I'm on a cell phone, as it gets bigger, it gets bigger, boom, and then boom, the picture is bigger, and it's underneath my thing.
Could you put the code view back up?
Yeah.
I just did.
Which one? Oh, the code view
Yeah,
for the
media query. Yeah, that one, thanks.
So see if you can get the picture to move to the right side and underneath the box. Again, it's tiny in one spot on the cell phone, but we make it bigger on the computer screen. So try that.